Here's your podcast script. Democrats once vowed to stop oil and gas. Now they're not so sure. That's the headline from the New York Times, and it gets at a real shift happening inside the Democratic Party right now. For years, the climate movement had a rallying cry: keep it in the ground. Don't drill. Cancel pipelines. Phase out fossil fuels. And for a while, that message had serious political momentum. In 2020, Democratic presidential candidates were being pressured to swear off oil and gas donations, ban fossil fuel insiders from their cabinets, and commit to eliminating planet-warming emissions within decades. The Biden administration followed through on a lot of that, canceling the Keystone Pipeline, sealing off millions of acres in Alaska from drilling, halting new liquefied natural gas export approvals, and backing California's plan to ban new gas-powered car sales by 2035. But here's the thing, it didn't pay off politically. Young voters, especially young men, drifted away from Democrats in 2024. Republicans ran on drill, baby, drill, cast Democrats as the party of gas stove bans and unaffordable energy bills, and won. And almost as soon as the results came in, the conversation inside the Democratic Party started to change. Now, as midterm elections approach, many Democrats are openly rethinking how and whether to talk about climate change at all. Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona said he and others aren't discussing it this election season because, in his words, we want to win. Rahm Emanuel, who's exploring a 2028 presidential run, said Democrats were talking to the faculty lounge and to another Aspen conference on climate change, and that's not how you win political arguments. His prescription: talk about energy, and talk about it in terms of what people pay on their electric bills. Even some longtime climate hawks have shifted their tone. Senator Ed Markey, one of the original co-sponsors of the Green New Deal, said these days he talks about the positive vision for what clean energy represents as a solution to the affordability crisis, not the existential threat framing that once defined his messaging. And in California, Tom Steyer, a billionaire who made fighting climate change his signature cause, was edged out of the gubernatorial primary by Xavier Becerra, a moderate who questioned some of the state's most aggressive climate targets and received donations from oil and gas companies. The polling tells you why this is happening. A recent Economist/YouGov survey found that just 5% of Americans say climate change is their top voting issue. Meanwhile, 29% cite inflation and prices, and 13% point to jobs and the economy. Climate concern is real. A separate YouGov poll found 57% of Americans think the country should do more to address it, but it's not what's driving votes. So what's the new Democratic playbook shaping up to look like? Something strategists are calling all of the above energy policy, a phrase that used to belong to Republicans. The idea is, don't be the party that says no to oil and gas. Be the party that says yes to everything, while making the case that wind and solar are often cheaper and faster to deploy. Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania put it bluntly: Democrats were pretending that we are not going to need fossil fuels like natural gas, and that pretense cost them. Even Democratic governors in the Northeast, some of the most climate-conscious states in the country, are now open to expanding natural gas pipelines. Not everyone is on board with this pivot. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse has warned against what he calls climate hushing, the idea that when leaders stop talking about something, voter enthusiasm for it collapses, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of silence. Climate activist Saad Amr was sharper. He called the strategists pushing Democrats away from climate messaging unimaginative hypocrites who don't have any vision of what a future should look like. And there's a real cost to the softer approach that even supporters acknowledge. Adding more wind and solar without a concurrent drop in fossil fuel use might not cut emissions fast enough to matter for the climate. It just might produce policies that last longer than what Biden built, which Trump dismantled in under 2 years. That's the bet Democrats are weighing: move slower on the climate, but maybe actually hold the ground they gain. This is a story that will keep developing as the midterms get closer, and how Democrats navigate it will say a lot about what the party actually believes, versus what it thinks it needs to say to win.